Let us breathe together as we commune with fresh waters.
I am Jas, the Spirit Nurturer.
I am Jae the Goddexx. Let us breathe together as we commune with fresh waters.
I am Jas, the Spirit Nurturer.
I am Jae the Goddexx. Peace, family. In this season series of Coming to the Circle, 7 Seeds of Consciousness, we open with nature calling. I am the nurturance of nature. Enjoy this guided ceremony and receive the gifts of nurturance from our stories and relations with nature elements, the ice, the grandmother presence, and the evolution of being. Tune into presence and receive. Let us breathe, returning to presence. Let us breathe, returning to the essence of our being. Taking a deep inhale, bringing the breath to the crown, reciting Ave, hail to the divine. Exhaling with a sigh, honoring the divine. Deep inhale, Ave, sigh. Deep inhale, Ave, sigh. Deep inhale, sigh. Surrendering into a smile as we commune with the presence of our being. We breathe into our self as the presence of the divine.
Let's take a couple of breaths. Get settled into our bodies. Connecting with our presence. Connecting with our being. Feeling our hearts. Connecting with each other. Connecting with our breath. Welcoming the presence. Honoring ourselves as we walk towards the circle. Remembering that we bring our stories to the circle. And we own our story and our experience of being. And we share concisely, succinctly for ourselves when we share stories in the circle. Relaxing into our breath and breathing. Feeling into our hearts. Share 2 words to describe the feelings and intentions within you are bringing to this circle today.
The first word that is coming through for me is acceptance. And also what I hear, through feeling acceptance is that there's just speaking in terms of connecting with nature. There's so many bodies, personalities, different waves of nature to really accept and be with. And along with acceptance is also the stillness. I know that's where it comes through a lot for me, but I know there's some power behind it because through accepting and being still within that acceptance is like that free flow, that opening.
Trusting the stories that come through me today are meant for all of us in this conversation that we are creating collectively. And deep listening. Deep listening because in being transformed to the divine feminine, deeply listening to my sibling, my water sister, my water sibling, in deeply listening and receiving stories, I'm transformed, we're transformed, and we are curating transformation for all of us. When we come together in presence, we activate a ceremony between us. And that is the creation that we are honoring here with our intentions. So today we are sharing stories we have within us, within our bodies, that we've collected on our path, on this walk. We're sharing stories of nature and how nature has nurtured us. And we're not defining anything, but we're simply asking the stories inside of us to come forward and speak through us so that we are all transformed.
Immediately when I think and speaking specifically of the ego, it's like, there are so many stories. Currently we're in summer and we're making this slow transition into fall. In the area that I live in on the land, I guess we're considered we have all three seasons. but the most prominent season is snow, is winter, a lot of snow and ice. Um, but I thoroughly enjoy the summer. I thoroughly enjoy the sun, and the ego immediately wants to go to, well, Jas, what experience in the sun in the summer has nature nurtured you? Like you enjoy sitting outside and just being in its presence. And I've realized how easy that is for my spirit. Um, and there is something more denser that has come up. And the story that really kind of reflected that nurturance piece. This is during the winter. And throughout my life, and being on this spirit-led journey, wintertime is like my internal time. I don't like to leave the house much, especially driving. And that has been an energy that has been really cultivated within me of fear of driving, in the snow, on the ice, and something that I've always avoided. So if I was ever working a job, I would usually try to leave the job before the snow came. Or just even starting a new job, it was kind of divinely perfect that it will start, once the snow was leaving. Um, but the story that's coming up actually happened earlier this year, and at my current job, and actually started in the middle of fall going into winter. And it didn't really occur to me that, or deeply that, this is a choice that I made of uh, driving miles, to work no matter the weather. Um, and I know I called in that job for a specific reason, and I knew I couldn't just leave it because of my fear. Um, but there was one particular day where I was on my way home, and it was a snowstorm. Um, and the fear, the trauma, everything came up. And if you're familiar with driving on ice or in a snowstorm on the freeway, it's like once you're in it, once you've made the choice, there's no turning back. Like once you've made the choice, there's no turning back. And I literally had to sit with myself. Like that was more so one thing that I recognized was the reason why I have this fear or this trauma, this energy coming up that feels blocked, and that causes this emotion is because I'm always rushing. Like I'm trying to rush to get home. Like I'm not really present. I'm just I want to get there. I don't want to be in this snow. I don't want to be on this ice. I want to get home. I want to get to my destination so that I can finally breathe. Because usually I wouldn't breathe when I'm driving in those conditions. It's like I'm holding my breath because like I'm preparing or like I'm anticipating something happening. And in terms of really seeing nature nurture me is that reflection of, you don't have to rush. Why are you rushing? Who's telling you that you have to rush? Why can't you just be in this moment? If you want to drive slower, it's okay. If other cars want to pass you, it's okay. Let them go past you. It's okay. And even speaking in terms of water, being in that condition with a very different form of water, a different personality, like it's more dense. And it's like really, it's almost like the denseness is holding something. And you have to be with it. Like you've got to be with it. And if you try to turn away from it, then it's like that clash and that resistance. So that was definitely that piece that I was really nurtured by nature in this different form of, thinking of nurture, you kind of think of like this cozy and like, oh, like caressing. But like that was a piece of, you got to deal with this. We gotta face on, you gotta face it, face your quote unquote fear. And since then, it's definitely been like a learning process. But it was just really that reminder of you don't have to rush. Why are you rushing? Because when you rush, it's still a clash, it's like a resistance. Um, yeah, I'm complete with that, with my nurturance from nature story.
As I'm feeling into myself and as I'm feeling into the stories that I'm seeing bubble up for me right now with nature and experiencing nurture with nature, what I'm getting is that throughout my life experience, um, for me, what I have recognized nature to be has always been this um, shifting presence that takes on multiple forms. Its presence has multiple forms. This is the presence of nature. And as I'm thinking of the stories that's coming forward for how I've been experiencing this presence of nature, how it's been nurturing me, I'm remembering stories from my childhood of early experiences being nurtured by nature, literally being in the garden, sitting with the rocks, sitting with the trees, being in ceremony with these elements, just in presence. And like we were opening up this conversation today with recognizing that when we come together in presence, we open a ceremony. And so early in my life, I was in ceremony with the presence of earth when I was playing in the garden by myself. I was in ceremony when I was in the presence with tree, with the nature elders. I was being nurtured when I was um, looking to the sky and crying, crying to sky, begging and praying and crying to sky. These are the ways nature has nurtured me growing up as a child, because for me, it was the elements that nurtured the presence of my being and my spirit. And it was the presence of the nature elements that took care of me spiritually the way I needed care. Right. So those stories are so precious to me now. They're so precious to my heart. But now in this moment in my life, when I think about nature and how nature is nurturing me now, I'm seeing life. I'm seeing how my experiences in life right now, how my recognition of these experiences is through the eyes of nature, and that living this life is me being part of nature and me existing as nature. And that's really nurturing me right now because of this spiritual journey that I'm on. It's evolving consciously all the time, right? And recognizing how I'm evolving consciously in my spiritual journey, I'm recognizing how my relationship with life is shifting, and how I'm recognizing that all of my experiences that I'm having right now is me experiencing the nature of life and the nature of being alive, and what it means to have breath in form, and all that comes with it, with the emotional body and the mental body, and then the social body and the political body and the financial body. All these bodies comes with this nature of life. So I'm experiencing nurturance and nature in a way where it's feeding my spirit. And it's feeding my spirit in a way where the more I surrender to the nature of life, and the more I embrace the experience of this journey, the more I'm able to just enjoy. And that's how I'm being nurtured by life, is I'm enjoying the evolution of my being in the presence of I am. I think I'm complete sharing that. I feel like with the stories we've shared our own way that we are experiencing nurturance, and the way we are in presence is helping us to receive this nurturance. And those are the stories we're sharing here. And so let's share a story of reciprocity. Let's share a story of reciprocity and how, in our experience, nature shows us and teaches us reciprocity.
I'm going to be honest, I really want to expand or kind of pull from the first story I shared, because there was so much reciprocity within that experience. And I'll share like two different sides of it. First, speaking on the side of being, in this form, as I guess all of us in this form, and how we're all working together consciously or, subconsciously. But through that working, it's like reciprocated, whether, like I said, whether we know about it or we don't. And in that experience of finally communing with snow, with ice, in that condition, I was reminded of first, we had a call. It was either that day or maybe another day, but you mentioned a book about, kind of talking to the elements. And like, that never occurred to me to talk to the snow element or just this different form of water and really like get to know it. And I feel like that's what the resistance was to what I did not want to breathe into or feel into, because I knew it would expose some things that I wasn't ready to address. But in that moment, I had to, but I remembered that. And I was very intentional with that. And kind of while I was in the midst of that experience, I was also listening to, I believe it was actually a Shuri and Kira show. And Kira was just sharing her story, and it was so similar to what I was going through. Like it was literally the exact same thing, different weather conditions, but it was so supportive of like why, like kind of just rethinking, that piece of you saying, okay, well, let's commune with the nature, let's talk to the elements, let's see what they're trying to say, maybe we can almost like re-navigate, what's going on so I can get home safely. Then that other piece of, from curative addressing, what I'm feeling, but knowing that I'm already here, I've already made the choice, so we got to keep on going. Um, but in bringing in that reciprocity from the other side with nature, of when I go, when I have this ignition of energy that is fearful, that is timid, it's almost like I'm thinking of an animal, they sense that, nature senses that, water senses that. We know water is it's highly I mean, water is, it's that movement of energy. And me addressing the ice, the falling snow, the cold weather, the I want to say molecules that are very far apart and moving slowly. My energy is moving fastly, but if it's timid, it's activating those molecules and it's almost making it even more, they're becoming timid. So that reciprocity piece is how the way that I'm addressing is the way that nature will address and commune with. Um, when I'm in these conditions, it's like, show them more love. Like, I appreciate being the winner. Like, I appreciate this. Like, thank you for showing the many forms, your many faces, the many faces that, you can transform and you can mold into. What's being revealed here? What are you revealing to me that maybe I need to activate more within? And I truly feel like, yeah, that's what it is, of me working with nature, like us working together. If nature is birthing something that that I guess reflects a block within me, okay, well, how can I transmute or transform that block? And then I transform that. And then nature feels that transformation. And nature's like, okay, then I'm gonna work with it. So it's almost like this, like really working back and forth, like just working together. I guess you can say back and forth. And it's like a beautiful work. And I've witnessed that with many different pieces of nature or elements, whether it's through the winter or summer, the rain, whatever it is. It's like the energy that I am emitting, almost like a sun, that I am emitting is received. And nature is so respectful in really using that energy to almost reflect back, the true reflection. Um, but even seeing the reciprocity in a different light. Right now, I'm looking outside and looking at the leaves blow through the wind, and like listening to the wind kind of push through the leaves of the trees on the branches. Kind of reminds me of like a wave. Now I'm thinking like, oh, why is this coming up? But this appreciation, and I've always wanted to live next to the water. But just receiving that of I'm already next. Like, I'm already here in the water. Like I'm already living with it, and I'm grateful. I'll keep that there. I'm complete with my sharing.
When I feel into reciprocity, there's energy of what you were saying earlier of receiving. And I think that is probably one of the biggest lessons that I have received being in nature. It's the lesson of receiving. And I just think it's so really fascinating how nature has a way of teaching you how to receive by being reciprocal, by being that which receives you. And that's been my experience. I've gone to nature to receive me in the darkest moments of my life. And when I'm in the darkest moments of my life with my emotions, and I'm learning how to hold myself emotionally and still exist in this world, I go out to nature. And I feel like it's only being in nature that actually helps me move through being with my emotions. I haven't found any other healing modality that works the way nature does. And for me, it's always I'm called by a specific tree when I've spent too much time away from the trees, I hear them calling me. And so I can tell when I've overindulged in this world too much and I need to return to the trees. And I walk to this foresty area and I'm always there alone by myself, breathing with the trees, breathing with earth, breathing with the sun, breathing with the air. And it's only in being in nature that I feel all of me is being held and received. And I always feel like nature has the most expansive capacity to hold me in all of my being without needing me to change any part of me in those moments when I need to be received. Right? And so in learning how to receive, there's this learning to surrender into myself. And that's what I've been learning from nature. It's receiving myself more and more and more, and going deeper and deeper into receiving myself. Because every time I'm in need, it's through the Divine Mother that I pray to, and Divine Mother Source receives me every time. So I'm learning that, and I'm learning to be this embodiment of receiving and being the divine emanation of Divine Mother as reciprocal. I'm asking Divine Mother to show me to be more and more reciprocal in receiving. So every day I pray for that. I'm complete with my story. So let's weave with each other's stories and share what we resonated with. Weaving each other's stories. What did we connect with?
So in the first story, or the first half of the story you shared with, life really cultivating the nurturance, you're speaking about it being a child in the garden. And that reminded me of the times that I would spend with my grandmother. She was deeply connected to the land, and she had a whole garden as well in her area, or her home in the yards. She had like an apple tree in the backyard, but I remember like navigating outside, like the bushes, and like one side of the home, it was just like the grass and bushes, and the other side there was like a walking path. When I think about those times, or just, that time, it almost seems very dreamy, like very astral, like very was another dimension, another time. And I guess I say that because, it's almost like that experience is held so tightly, because that's all that no more new experiences, can be made, if that makes sense. So seeing her and, and my remembrance, of her being outside and doing certain things, and like really tending to the garden, tending to the land, like completely, even if her body was like, no, me just kind of witnessing that and being in the presence. I guess that was extremely nurturing. But yeah, when you share that story of how you were held, by life, by the elements, that just was like the first experience that came to mind. But even now, every time that I go outside and just sit there, it's like literally becoming one, and it's so interesting, the shift in energy of, being in a room and truly using, the walls, and how it's just confined, and like the energy is just like interacting with each other, compared to like going outside where it's like that, like that openness of like, looking around and watching the different, animals play with each other, the birds, fly with each other, and like thinking of the bees, like looking for like pollen or flowers, and anything that's sweet it'll land on. Yeah, that's what really came up, because being outside or being within nature it's like, to be held is like literally is to truly like feel like your contribution, like feeling how I'm contributing to all of this. It's taking a step back from the density world, the handwritten society, and stepping into the energy that is and being present with it. Because that presence that nature calls back, once you step into it, is real, it's true. And I feel like that's that healing piece, because it's like either you're present with it or you're not. We can go outside and be your full self, or you can just partially, take the physical body out. But once we, kind of sitting in it, it's like feeling all parts of my body, taking the time to actually breathe in nature, because there have been times when I've gone outside and just literally had my body out there and then just enjoy the elements. But it's the next level to go out there and connect with it and be present with it, with nothing else that's distracting. Only distraction that is not a distraction is like really watching, what's happening out here. I love watching squirrels, like those are we cool, they be talking, and even the woodpeckers, seeing what they're doing. The butterflies that just be, flying around, like seeing the same one. I'm like, you guys like this area. It's just so many different elements, and it's like truly a different world. And it's like literally being in a galactic universe with outside of the home, like stepping into the grass is like, we're like in an entirely different universe. And that is so freaking awesome, like, to think about it. So yeah, that's what you reminded me of when you shared your stories. Just the vastness. And I'm just speaking about being on land. I haven't jumped into the water piece of nature, but that's what came through. And I'm complete with that.
Wow. It's a lot of energy there that I can feel into. And for me, there was there was just a lot of movement in your stories that I connected with, and a lot of movement always connects me with water, and I know we both have this very strong connection with water. But actually, listening to your stories, your story of being in your grandmother's garden, I really connect with the grandmother energy so much. It's such a strong presence in my life. And right now, I'm strongly connecting with the grandmother energy and the grandmother presence around me, because yesterday, I was surprised by my father. He came to see me, and he was coming to see me to bring me some stuff. And he gave me some mangoes and some vegetables. And then he gave me this bangle that I have here, which belonged to his mother, my Aji. And so he gave me this heirloom that she had made for all of her children. Every single one of her children received one of these bangles from her. And he just gave it to me last night, and he told me the story of her making one for all of his siblings. And it just reminded me of how a couple of weeks ago I just put it out there. I said, to the grace of Divine Mother, I would like a family heirloom. I'm like, Divine Mother, I want a family heirloom. Just make it happen for me, please. And I had no idea that my father had this heirloom, that my Aji had made this and given it to him. So, it means so much to me to have her heirloom and to be able to wear this bangle. It's quite a big circle around my neck because it can't fit around my wrist. But what I'm enjoying is the magic of this. And this is kind of coming back to how being present with life is so nurturing. But in recognizing this bangle is too big for my wrist, I decided to put it on a chain on my neck. And it's creating new geometry for me. With this pendant that I'm always wearing that has a heart on it, and this circle overlapping this triangle. And so it's creating new geometry right by my ascended heart. And so my Aji's energy is sitting right at my ascended heart. And so I'm sitting with this presence of my Aji around me, and the way that I'm feeling her as part of this council of mine that's just surrounding me, her presence. And that's coming to this conversation around being nurtured by nature and all the nature spirits that nurtures us in presence if we become attuned to being present. And that's what I'm receiving here in this sharing and weaving with our stories together. It's just the grandmother energy is strong around me, and I think it's because I'm preparing myself to be a kick-ass grandmother. That's my story. I'm complete. So in breathing and receiving each other, in breathing and receiving these stories, being transcended by the stories we've received, allowing the sharings that was gifted to each other today to carry us on a journey as we move on beyond this listening. Let's say 2 words to describe what we are feeling after we have received all these stories, what we feel right now.
Mm-hmm. So the word, more so, I know the word will come, but what I feel is, when you said gift, like that was yes, because messages or message or ignition, that's kind of this energy, this, I want to say slowness, this harmonic, this rhythm. It's like once you like find that frequency, I guess more so going back to what you said, attuning to the frequency or tuning to nature. It's like truly attuning to nature. Of course, there's that reminder of that relaxation, that slowness, but through that, everything comes at the right, like the divine timing. It's so on time. And that's, I guess it's less of like 2 words, but like that's kind of like that energy of like, I guess it goes back to that trust and honor in the presence and opening. So it's like 2 words or 4 words, but each of the 2 are holding the energy of like, it's like a polarity of 1. It's like, yes. So yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
I would say for me, it's this word that was coined by Madhu Khanna, Sakhihood. I'm feeling Sakhihood, which is this energy of being lifted. I'm being lifted by being in friendship. I'm being lifted by being in relation I'm being lifted by being in connection. And that's what Sakhihood, um, Sakhihood and friendship with water siblings, that's what that represents. That's what I'm feeling. It's how that is coming forward for me in an authentic way. Breathing here. Resting in the breath. Resting and relaxing into the flow of receiving and feeling into reciprocal. What is divine? Let's take 3 evasive breath here. Deeply inhaling. Deeply inhale. Deeply inhale. Sinking into a smile, surrendering into the presence, embracing and receiving the gifts that we have received today. We give thanks and honor our siblings and our sisters for sharing time and space and presence. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this deep listening and received the abundant energy available in the stories we carry. Episode 2, I Am As You Are, will be released right here at Freshwater Society on coffee.com October 19th. Make sure you subscribe to our newsletter to receive each episode in your inbox. Let us know how you resonated with this week's episode and email us at symbioticwaters@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at Symbiotic Waters and Moving Earth Convergent Waters on YouTube. As we build together, we welcome siblings to subscribe to our podcast membership and participate with us in our decentralized zine curation. To learn more, email symbioticwaters@gmail.com. Until we gather again in the abundant presence, peace.